With Nightmare Mode right around the corner, it is clear that Dr. Xenon will be going all out on what seems to be her final stand against the GDA. With her creations becoming increasingly powerful, it may be time for the GDA to consider unleashing one of its strongest assets yet. My fellow TDXians, it is time we ask the question, what if TDX added the aircraft carrier?
Bandits targeted, maintaining aerial superiority. Here comes the cavalry.
Heavy air support inbound.
I got visual. Let's splash them. Target painted. Area confirmed. Show them no mercy, people.
The aircraft carrier will be the new strongest naval tower, featuring a unique mechanic never seen before in TDX, rewarding players who can properly manage the aircraft carrier's multiple assets with devastating DPS levels and splash damage. I'll start with the base stats of the tower and then do an in-depth overview of this mechanic. The tower will cost 125,000 gold and require rank 125. It will also have a placement limit of 2 in solo, 1 in duo, 1 in trio, and 1 in quad. Trust me, the cost and placement limits will all make sense once the later levels are revealed. The base tower costs $100,000 to place down and has 75,000 HP. It cannot passively heal, similar to the reworked warship in this video, check it out after this video if you're interested, and cannot receive any friendly buffs. The ship comes with 8 main guns, although only 4 of them can shoot at a time. They deal 80 damage, have 3 splash radius, a 4-second reload time, and 500 range. The tower also comes with 6 anti-air flak cannons. These guns fire in bursts of 4, deal 20 damage, have a splash radius of 1, a reload time of 2 seconds, and 500 range. Now, this tower wouldn't be an aircraft carrier without some planes, so it's time to introduce the logistics panel. This panel is where the majority of the aircraft carrier's combat capability is concentrated, and effectively managing it is essential to unlocking the true potential of this tower. This is the logistics bar, which by default takes 2.5 seconds to charge each logistic point, and can hold up to 10 logistic points. These logistic points can be spent on various war assets to aid your towers on the battlefield. It's basically just Clash Royale, but in TDX. Next up, I would like to clarify how the DPS of the aircraft carrier will be calculated. War assets are sorted into 3 different categories, being strike assets, sustained assets, and support assets. Each category of war assets has a different way of calculating its DPS value. Strike assets will be calculated by dividing the total amount of damage the strike asset deals by how long it takes to charge the logistic points required to use said strike asset. For example, an airstrike that deals 1000 damage and costs 2 logistic points to use would have an asset DPS of 200, because it takes 5 seconds to get 2 logistic points, and 1000 divided by 5 is 200. Sustained assets will be calculated by multiplying the DPS of the individual sustained asset by the number of sustained assets that can be active at once. This is calculated by dividing the duration of the sustained asset by the time it takes to charge the logistic points required for said sustained assets, rounded down to the nearest whole number. For example, a VTOL jet sustained asset that deals 500 DPS, lasts 60 seconds, and costs 7 logistic points would have an asset DPS of 1500 because it takes 17.5 seconds to get 7 logistic points, and because the asset lasts 60 seconds, approximately 3.43 VTOL jets can be active at once. However, the amount of sustained assets that can be active will always be rounded down to the closest whole number, as it wouldn't make sense to include 0.43 of a VTOL jet in the calculation. Therefore, the final asset DPS would be 500 times 3, resulting in 1500. Finally, support assets, which will always have a DPS of 0 because they deal no damage. The final DPS calculation of the aircraft carrier will include all of the aircraft's onboard weapons plus the war asset that has the highest single target asset DPS. Additionally, the final DPS value will include both the maximum possible normal DPS and the maximum possible anti-air DPS. Now, with all of that out of the way, let's get back to the stats. The base tower has access to 2 assets, being the Wildcat Strafe and the Dauntless Strike. The Wildcat Strafe is a strike asset that costs 2 logistic points and calls in a F4F Wildcat to strafe the area, dealing a total of 1,600 damage. Its asset DPS is 320.
Copy that.
The Dauntless Strike calls in an SBD Dauntless to drop 3 bombs on the target and costs 5 logistic points. Each bomb deals 1,500 damage, and the asset DPS is 360.
Bombs away.
The maximum possible normal DPS is 440 through spamming Dauntless Strikes, and the maximum anti-air DPS is 160. The first top path upgrade, Logistics Upgrade, costs $20,000. The aircraft carrier's HP is increased to 80,000 and its total cost is now $120,000. The main guns and flat cannons remain the same, but the logistics charge time is decreased to 2 seconds. This increases the asset DPS of both the Wildcat Strafe and the Dauntless Strike to 400 and 450 respectively. The maximum possible normal DPS is 530 through spamming Dauntless Strikes, and the maximum possible anti-air DPS is still 160. Moving to the first bottom path upgrade, Reinforced Hull for $10,000. This upgrade increases the aircraft carrier's HP by 25,000, and its total cost is now $130,000. The guns and war assets remain the same. The maximum possible normal DPS is still 530 through spamming Dauntless Strikes, and the maximum possible anti-air DPS is also still 160. Going back up to the second top path upgrade, we have Fighter Upgrade for $30,000. The aircraft carrier's HP is increased to 110,000, and the total cost is now $160,000. The onboard weapons remain the same, but the Wildcat Strafe is replaced with a new strike asset, Hellcat Strafe, for 3 logistic points. This new strike asset calls in an F6F Hellcat that both strafes the ground and unleashes a barrage of rockets. It deals a total of 4,000 damage, and its asset DPS is 667.67.
Got it. Engaging now.
The Dauntless Strike remains the same. The maximum possible normal DPS is now 746.67 through spamming Hellcat Strafes, and the maximum possible anti-air DPS is still 160. The second bottom path upgrade is Damage Control for $20,000. The HP is now 115,000 and the total cost is 190,000. The weapons and existing war assets remain the same. A new support asset, Damage Control, is now available. This support asset heals 10% of the aircraft carrier's HP over 10 seconds, but also halves the logistic charge rate during repairs. The maximum possible normal DPS is 746.66 through spamming Hellcat Strafes, and the maximum possible anti-air DPS is 160. Moving on to the third top path upgrade, Fleet Carrier for $70,000. The HP is increased to 250,000 and the total cost is also $250,000. The number of main guns is increased to 18, with 9 being effective. The number of flat cannons is also greatly increased to 21, with 12 being effective. Asset-wise, the logistic bar now holds 12 logistic points. The Hellcat Strafe is upgraded into the Panther Strafe, where the gun damage is doubled and the rockets remain the same, leading to a new asset DPS of 933.33.
Removing hostiles.
The Dauntless Strike is upgraded into the Corsair Strike. The logistic cost remains the same, but the number of bombs is doubled. The asset DPS is now 900.
Target spotted.
In addition, 3 more war assets are added. The Crusader Patrol Sustained Asset calls in a pair of FAE Crusaders to patrol the area, targeting only air enemies for 8 logistic points. Each missile deals 1000 damage and has a reload time of 1 second for both planes. The patrol has a duration of 60 seconds and an asset DPS of 3000.
Order received. Patrolling the area.
The next war asset, Supply Drop, is a support asset that calls in a CH-46 Sea Knight to deliver a cash crate worth $10,000 for 6 logistic points.
Supply en route.
The last war asset is Reconnaissance Patrol for 2 logistic points. This support asset calls in an E2 Hawkeye to reveal stealth enemies for 60 seconds.
Hawkeye online.
Finally, the aircraft carrier gains a new ability, Fleet Command. This ability increases the fire rate of all naval towers by 20% for 60 seconds with a 120 second cooldown. The maximum possible normal DPS is now 1113.33 through spamming Panther Strafes, and the maximum possible anti-air DPS is 3320 through having 3 Crusader patrols active. Going down to the bottom path, we have Amphibious Assault Ship for $320,000. The HP is now $350,000 and the total cost is $500,000. The main guns and flat cannons are removed and replaced with a more modern armament. Starting off is the Sea Sparrow Barrage attack. This attack can hit both ground and air targets, dealing 750 damage, firing in bursts of 8, having 5 splash radius, a reload time of 15 seconds, a range of 1250, and having 2 attacks. Next up is the Sea Whiz, which can only target air enemies. It deals 20 damage, has a reload time of 0.1 seconds, and has 3 attacks. Finally, we have the Anti-Air SAM. It deals 400 damage, fires in bursts of 6, has a reload time of 3, and 1 attack. Moving along to the war assets. Both the Hellcat Strafe and the Dauntless Strike are replaced with the Harrier Overwatch Sustained Asset. This asset calls in an AV-8B Plus Harrier 2 VTOL jet, which acts like the attack helicopter on pursuit mode for 8 logistic points. The asset has 5000 HP, 15 movement speed, and lasts 60 seconds. It's equipped with an autocannon that deals 30 damage with a fire rate of 0.05 seconds, and a rocket pod that deals 100 damage, has a fire rate of 0.5 seconds, and 2 splash radius. The asset DPS is 2400.
Here comes the cavalry. Hey, what's that thing coming in? Oh, what the? Oh my god. Ah!
The maximum possible normal DPS is 2921.74 through having 3 Harrier Overwatches active, and the maximum possible anti-air DPS is 4055 through also having 3 Harrier Overwatches active. The 4th top path upgrade, Super Carrier, costs $680,000. The HP is increased to 800,000 and the total cost is now $930,000. The main guns and flat cannons are removed in favor of more modern attacks, such as the Sea Sparrow Barrage, which can hit both air and ground enemies, and the Sea Whiz, which is strictly anti-air only. The maximum logistic capacity is increased to 15, and most war assets are upgraded. Starting with the Phantom Strike, replacing the Panther Strafe, which calls in an F4E Phantom 2 to drop 6 napalm bombs on the target for 3 logistic points. Each bomb deals 1500 damage and applies a 15-second burn effect that deals 500 DPS. Enemies caught in the blast will also take 20% more damage for the duration of the burn. Also do note that the burn does not stack. The asset DPS is 2750.
I got eyes on the target. Raining Hellfire.
The Corsair Strike is upgraded into the Intruder Strike. which calls an A6 intruder to drop 4 bombs on the enemy for 5 logistic points. Each bomb deals 7,500 damage, and the asset DPS is 3,000.
Delivering the payload.
Next up, the Crusader Patrol is upgraded into the Tomcat Patrol. This sustained asset calls in a pair of F-14D Tomcats to maintain aerial superiority for 12 logistic points. The pair of planes has a combined reload time of 0.5 seconds, with each missile dealing 1,500 damage. They have enough fuel to patrol for 60 seconds, and the asset DPS is 6,000.
Understood. We'll take it from here.
The supply drop is upgraded into the Care Package. This support asset calls in a C2 Greyhound to drop a care package for 8 logistic points. The package gives $35,000 and creates a healing field around its drop zone for 30 seconds.
Drop zone confirmed. Delivering care package.
A new strike asset is added, Sky Warrior Bombing Run for 10 logistic points. This asset calls in an A3B Sky Warrior, which drops a carpet of 12 bombs, each dealing 6,500 damage. The asset DPS is 3,900.
I got visual. Let's splash them.
Lastly, the Fleet Command ability now increases the fire rate of naval towers by 30%. The maximum possible normal DPS is 4,421.74 through spamming Sky Warrior bombing runs, although do note that this is not very realistic due to how spread apart the bombs of this strike asset are. The maximum possible anti-air DPS is 7,121.7 with 2 Tomcat patrols active at once. The next bottom path upgrade, Battle Carrier, costs $950,000. The HP is now 600,000, while the total cost is now $1.45 million. The main guns are back, now dealing 160 damage with a splash radius of 3, a reload time of 3 seconds, 650 range, and 2 attacks. The Sea-Wiz is replaced with the AK Sea-Wiz, which now deals 10 damage but has 8 attacks. The anti-air SAM remains the same, but now has 2 attacks. A new attack, the Storm Multi-Purpose SAM, is added. This attack can target both air and ground enemies. It deals 875 damage with a splash radius of 5, a reload time of 2.5 seconds, 1,250 range, and 2 attacks. Finally, a powerful Vulcan cruise missile attack is added. This attack deals 5,000 damage, has a splash radius of 10, a reload time of 4 seconds, and 1,250 range. The logistic bar can now hold 12 logistic points, and the Harrier Overwatch is upgraded into the Yak Overwatch. This sustained asset costs 10 logistic points, and calls in a Yak 38M VTOL jet to provide constant fire support, similar to the attack helicopter in pursuit mode. The jet has 7,500 HP, a movement speed of 25, and lasts 60 seconds. It's armed with an autocannon that deals 55 damage every 0.05 seconds, as well as rocket pods that deal 500 damage every 0.5 seconds with a splash radius of 2. The asset DPS is 6,300.
Your air support is here. Oh, bloody hell.
The maximum possible normal DPS is 8,356.66 through having 3 Yak Overwatches active. The maximum possible anti-air DPS is 8,866.66 with 3 Yak Overwatches active. The max top path upgrade, Capital Carrier, costs $2.6 million. The carrier now has 1.25 million HP and the total cost is $3.53 million. The previous attacks remain the same and 2 additional anti-air SAMs are added. They each deal 400 damage, fire in bursts of 6, and have a 3-second reload time. The tower can now hold up to 20 logistic points, while the logistic charge rate is decreased to 1.5 seconds. The Phantom Strike is replaced with a Tactical Drone Strike. This strike asset calls in an X-47B drone to fire a powerful missile at the target for 2 logistic points. The missile deals 10,000 damage, igniting all enemies that get hit with a burn effect that deals 1000 DPS for 25 seconds. Additionally, enemies set on fire take 30% extra damage, while bosses set on fire take 10% extra damage. Finally, all enemies are stunned for 1 second if hit. The asset DPS is 11,666.66.
Coordinates received. Turn them to ash.
The Intruder Strike is replaced with the Hornet Strike, which now calls in an F-A-A-T-E to drop 6 bombs on the target for 4 logistic points. Each bomb deals 15,000 damage, and the asset DPS is 15,000.
Target panted.
The Tomcat Patrol is replaced with the Lightning Patrol. This sustained asset calls in a pair of F-35C Lightning IIs to ensure complete aerial supremacy for 15 logistic points. Both planes have a combined reload time of 0.5 seconds and fire missiles that deal 4,000 damage each. Upgraded fuel tanks also enable the Lightning Patrol to remain active for 100 seconds rather than 60. The asset DPS is 32,000.
Bandits targeted, maintaining aerial superiority.
The rest of the assets remain the same, except for the Sky Warrior bombing run, which is replaced with the Lancer Support Strike asset. Upgrades to the communication systems and aerial refueling methods now allow the carrier to call in a B-1B Lancer from a nearby GDA airbase to annihilate any threat for 18 logistic points. The asset fires 24 cruise missiles on random targeting that each deal 15,000 damage. The asset DPS is 13,333.33.
Area confirmed. Show them no mercy, people.
Finally, the Fleet Command ability now increases the fire rate of all naval towers by 40%. The maximum possible normal DPS is 15,521.74 through spamming Hornet strikes. The maximum possible anti-air DPS is 34,188.4 with 4 lightning patrols active. Finally, the max bottom path upgrade, Flagship, costs $1.9 million. The tower now has 1 million HP and a total cost of $3.35 million. The amount of AKC whizzes is increased to 14. The anti-air SAM and Storm SAM are replaced with the Gauntlet Multi-Purpose SAM, which deals 1,000 damage every second, has a splash radius of 5, has a 1,250 range, and has 4 attacks. The Vulcan Cruise Missile is replaced with the Shipwreck Ballistic Missile. This attack deals 25,000 damage every 5 seconds, with 20 splash radius and 1,250 range. The logistic capacity is increased to 15, and several new war assets are added. Starting off, the Yak Overwatch is upgraded into the Freestyle Yak Overwatch. This sustained asset now calls in a Yak 141 Freestyle VTOL jet to maintain constant air-to-ground support. The jet is armed with an autocannon that deals 75 damage every 0.05 seconds, and powerful missiles that deal 3,000 damage every 1.5 seconds, with 5 splash radius. Additionally, advancements in fuel efficiency enable the Yak 141 to remain active for 80 seconds instead of 60.
Heavy air support inbound. Mayday, mayday, mayday.
The next war asset added is the Flanker Patrol for 10 logistic points. This sustained asset calls in a pair of Su-33s to secure the airspace. They have a combined reload time of 0.5 seconds and fire missiles that deal 3,000 damage each. The asset lasts 80 seconds and has an asset DPS of 24,000.
I see the hostiles. Flying over now.
Next up is the Frogfoot Strafe for 4 logistic points. This strike asset calls in a Su-25 Frogfoot to devastate any ground target, similar to the A-10 power-up. The asset starts by firing 200 rounds that deal 50 damage each at the strongest enemy, followed by a barrage of 40 rockets on random targeting that deal 200 damage each, and ends by dropping 4 bombs on random targeting that deal 10,000 damage. The asset DPS is 7,250.
Strafing the area.
The last war asset added is the Fulcrum Strike for 2 logistic points. This strike asset calls in a MiG-29M to quickly strike the enemy with 2 bombs, each dealing 15,000 damage. The asset DPS is 7,500.
Dropping payload.
The maximum possible normal DPS is 22,500 through having 3 freestyle Yak Overwatches active. The maximum possible anti-air DPS is 29,400 with 4 flanker patrols active. Okay, that was quite a lot of information to take in, and you probably have many questions, which by the way, feel free to leave them in the comments below, I read all of them. But I will be trying my best to clarify and answer any potential questions. First off, why is this tower so goddamn expensive? The most expensive tower currently is the Bottom Path Warship for $385,000, and both paths of the aircraft carrier cost almost 10 times as much. Well, for one, this tower is intended to be used mostly on Endless mode, maybe Expert mode, and definitely Nightmare mode when it releases. You could probably use it for easier game modes, but the below average cost efficiency for the earlier levels of the aircraft carrier heavily discourage this. But honestly, the main reason is because it's a free aircraft carrier. Its presence alone can project power along an entire sea, and I wanted to recreate that as much as possible in TDX. Another point I would like to address is the price difference between the top and bottom paths. First things first, I am not a balancer, but I tried to keep this tower as balanced as I could. To justify the top path costing more than the bottom path despite having significantly less normal DPS is through the many advantages the top path has over the bottom path. The top path has, hold on, let me list this out, higher HP, a source of income, friendly tower healing capability, more anti-air DPS, global support for other naval towers, debuff enemies, stun enemies, reveal stealth enemies, and on top of all of that, has a faster logistic charge rate, which allows for war assets to be used more frequently. Finally, some people may argue that certain war assets, especially at later levels, become obsolete when compared to one another. This was an issue I tried my best to solve, but ultimately it's bound to happen. The general rule I tried to follow is that war assets with less asset DPS deal way more splash damage or have some support capabilities, with the exception of the freestyle Yak Overwatch asset, which at a glance completely dwarfs the other assets on the bottom path carrier in terms of asset DPS. But because it's also one of the few war assets that can actually be destroyed by enemies, I think this alone makes it more balanced, as it is incredibly risky to use against bosses. If you have any other questions, I highly recommend watching my other video on naval stuff in TDX, as it answers some other questions like why the carrier has this much HP and no passive healing, and you can also see some other really cool concept towers. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed, join my membership if you want to support me, and oh yeah, I almost forgot, Oscar Jacobs. I know you're watching this video, so if you find a way to leave a comment, I'll pin it. Okay, that's it now. Bye.
Bloody hell, bloody hell.
This is, up in Salt.
Bloody hell.
It's doing it.
Bloody hell, bloody hell.
Voice for the aircraft carrier concept.
Bloody hell, bloody hell.
Main man, Epic Zil, you, guys better subscribe to
Bloody hell, bloody hell. Bloody hell.